Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Steve Wilson from the State Water Survey and the private well class. We're back on Socio. Hopefully everybody made it back. I do want to say I appreciate everyone who attended this morning. It was a really great discussion, and I know a lot of interaction and comments came out of that. Looking forward to some of those discussions further down the road. So starting this afternoon, the next thing on our agenda is the next round of lightning talks, and we have 3 today. The first is by Tiziana Shea from the Connecticut Department of Health, and her title is Outreach Approach During Connecticut's Statewide Private Well Arsenic and Uranium Study. The next is Jason Barrett from Mississippi State University, New Approach to a Seasoned Program. And the third is Jeff Broberg from the Minnesota Well Owners Organization, How Non-Government Agencies Reduce Barriers to Well Testing. Assure all well owners that we only care about the water quality at their kitchen sink. So we're going to listen to all 3 talks, and then those 3 folks will be here to answer questions. And so, yeah, with that, go ahead and get it started.
Hello, I'm Tiziana Shea, an engineer with the Connecticut Department of Public Health, Environmental Health and Drinking Water Branch Private Well Program. I'm going to be discussing our outreach approach during our statewide private well arsenic and uranium study. In Connecticut, about 23% of our state's population are served by their own private well water system, which equates to over 820,000 residents. So outreach and education, technical assistance to our private well users, is an important item to address. Typically in Connecticut, private well users must test water quality on their own, but we do have a state lab available only for state and local use for investigatory reasons like studies or contamination investigation. The state lab is otherwise not open to the general public. About 8 years ago, concerns arose regarding the prevalence of naturally occurring arsenic and uranium in neighboring New England states. So our department embarked on a mission to better understand the prevalence in state and to spread the word to private well users about comprehensive testing. At the same time, the department developed a comprehensive guidance document for private well testing recommendations. It included both arsenic and uranium, since we anticipated that we'd find both in private wells across the state. But we weren't sure to what extent, so we initiated a study to look at their prevalence. They have no indicators, so like other water characteristics, the only way to know was a test. Our state lab was willing and able to help by providing us with bottles and analysis under the provisions of a study. At first, we partnered with some local health departments to hand out bottles in their communities, but we needed to go bigger. So we set up shop at agricultural fairs across the state. While we met some success with this, we found that most fairgoers were there for their rides and fried foods and not to talk about their water. So we started partnering with local health departments to set up targeted events for private well users. During those events, we offered free arsenic and uranium test kits with instructions to collect raw water samples. Anyone who took a free kit also got messaging and educational materials for comprehensive testing and well maintenance. We got help from our DPH lab, Environmental Health Assessment Program, and local health departments. In some cases, we invited water well contractors and labs to join us at targeted events to give private well users better access to more complete resources, and we contracted with the USGS. We approached USGS for mapping and evaluation of our data. With that, we developed a grid approach to ensure adequate representation in areas with private wells. We started with a grid of 400 cells and modified that along the way for manageability. I made a final push to target areas where there was no data. This is the final product showing percentage of wells by geologic unit with varying arsenic concentrations. Locations are buffered. Also shown is the department's arsenic guidance document provided to all private well participants, which includes health messaging and treatment options. This is the final product of the same for uranium. Again, locations are buffered. Also shown is the department's guidance document on uranium for private well users, along with radon and radium, since they're uranium decay products. Once the study report was complete, we coordinated a joint press release with USGS in April 2021 to promote its findings and to emphasize the importance of private well testing. This press release generated yet a new wave of interest, which increased private well user awareness and inquiries. The bottom line is, our long-standing recommendation for comprehensive private well testing to include arsenic and uranium is warranted. The data shows the prevalence is widespread in many areas, and all Connecticut private well users should test for both at least once, but ideally maybe every 5 years. We continue to maintain helpful guidance documents specific for private well owner use to address drinking water standards, how private well contaminants might affect our health, where they might be coming from, and how we can address these issues through treatment or other means of mitigation. Since health concerns for both arsenic and uranium are primarily linked to water being used for consumption, drinking, and cooking, our guidance also discusses the use of point-of-use treatment devices versus whole-house treatment, such as reverse osmosis and anion exchange. This study helped determine outreach approaches that worked for us. We found that targeted events gathered a more focused audience. Partnering with local communities, resources, or contractors made for a more robust response, and taking time for questions is a must. If you're interested in learning more about the arsenic and uranium occurrence in private wells in Connecticut, the full USGS report can be found at this web link. Sample data was collected between 2013 and 2018, and the report was released in November 2020. These are our department's two private well dedicated web pages. One is our main DPH private well program page with lots of detailed information, and the second is a streamlined landing page created during a media campaign we initiated a few years ago. This is me, Tiziana Shea, with the Department of Public Health Private Well Program. Please feel free to reach out if you'd like to discuss any of this further. And thank you to the Private Well class for the opportunity to speak with all of you today. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Jason Barrett with Mississippi State University with the Mississippi Water Resources Research Institute, Director of the Mississippi Well Owner Network Program. Been here at Mississippi State University for about 15 years, the entire time dealing with water and wastewater systems. Title of today's presentation is going to be a new approach to a seasoned program, in which we're talking about the Mississippi Well Owner Network Program and what we've done as a result of COVID and kind of the actions that we saw across the state. So as far as our outline goes, what we're going to see is I'm going to touch on our population so you kind of get an understanding of what we have in the state. I'm going to talk about our old ways of operation, some of the occurrences that I'm going to say kind of spurred us to continue, not just put on hold what we were doing. New way of operations, some of the new things we were doing to transition to assist during COVID times, and then I'm going to say some of the things that we've done that we're going to keep on as we move forward. If you look at the state, the northern area, those northern three counties that's right under Memphis, heavy population due to, I think, just a mass growth. Central area, that's the capital city, and then our coastal region, heavily populated. All right, so as far as our old way of doing business, you would see within an extension office, very common classroom setting. We invite people in, we have presenters, we'd actually go through PowerPoint presentations, allow a lot of conversations with the audience, within themselves, a lot of very personal interactions, very good, but very traditional is what we'd see within the extension program. Also, we would allow the homeowners to bring their samples to the extension office. We would collect the samples from them there, have a lot of conversations, provide publications, and then we would actually take those back to campus and run the samples and send them the results. Over the last year and a half or so, on top of COVID, some of the things we saw were storms. We had a lot of flooding that we saw along rivers, so a lot of homes in those areas. And then also just in the state, we saw a lot of massive rains and flood. So as a result of, I'm going to say, the excessive rains, storms, we had a lot of wells getting inundated, getting flooded. So publication to address readying your well for the next flood was something we felt there was a high need for. Also, we talk about disinfecting a water well through shock chlorination with a lot of this well inundation. And then the amount of bacteria that we see. We wanted something to address cleaning up or clearing up these wells from bacteria. So as we move towards kind of the new way of operating, we started pushing a lot of things virtual. We were still using our extension offices because our extension offices remained open during COVID. We were allowing homeowners to come to the extension office. They could still collect the sample bottles and instructions and then bring their pooled sample to the office on the day that we would be providing the pickup. We were actually hosting all of our workshops virtually over Zoom call, Zoom meeting. I was really anticipating as much, if not greater, participation, but we seem to drop just a little, and I think that may be kind of our rural nature. The part of the program that I enjoy the most and I'm really excited about and really looking forward to keep and maintain as we move forward is in each of our counties I was allowing the agent to generate a list of homeowners within their county that was interested in us coming out and actually having a face-to-face, one-on-one conversation in which we would collect the sample, we would Q&A with the homeowners, give them some best management practices, some ideas about better water quality, better ways to maintain their well. We're still seeing very similar rates as we've seen in the past as far as bacteria presence. We're about 1 in 3, so we're just shy of 33%. Not great numbers, which to me kind of drives home the reason for more education, more resources. We're still, I'm going to say, targeting the same population ranges within our counties to address private well issues. We're still screening these private wells for total coliform and E. coli. As much as possible, we're providing extension publications to our homeowners. This on-site technical assistance, I think, is really good, something we're going to continue as we move forward, even as COVID relaxes and we can still hold our face-to-face workshops within the counties. So this is my contact information here at Mississippi State University with the Institute. So thank you. Good to see everyone.
Hello, my name is Jeff Broberg. I'm a licensed professional geologist from southeastern Minnesota near Rochester and one of the founders of the Minnesota Well Owners Organization, talking about how non-government agencies can reduce barriers to well testing. Our mission is to provide education, technical assistance, legal services, and advocacy to private well owners, and we understand there's a series of barriers that seem to prevent people from dealing with their water quality issues. We know that nonprofits can do things that government can't do and businesses won't do. Nonprofits reach people, offer practical solutions, focus on progress, and are a bridge between decision makers and regulators. We often get the comment that, well, if I let you test my water, will you turn this over to a government agency, and are they going to come and condemn my well if I've got a problem? That's not how it works. So we focused on partnerships with other nonprofits and dealing in a non-regulatory fashion with water quality issues at our kitchen sink. We have plenty of leaders that are in government agencies and state and local governments. Oftentimes, too often, they're in conflicted positions where they're regulators and technical advisors. The University of Minnesota has been an important partner, especially with dealing with issues of public health, outreach and extension, and the social science aspect of dealing with people's barriers, biases, and motivations. When COVID hit, we had to change our plans, and we went into a planning mode, cooperative effort with the Minnesota Groundwater Association. We put together 7 teams with 26 volunteers. Focus on first how to recruit volunteers, especially retiree volunteers, to help our organizations stay active in their profession. We also are dealing with how to recruit and support our sponsors, managers, hosts, and volunteers with toolkits for engaging private well owners with the details of planning, budgets, logistics, and communication. That's so important in dealing with private well owners and their barriers. Water screening clinic model that we've developed has 5 separate opportunities to capture their attention, to reduce the barriers, and to make a good impression and motivate well owners. We focus on testing first, to start with free screening clinics and try to make sure people understand the importance of certified labs doing their tests on a frequent basis. We focus on helping people understand their water systems. Every system's unique. Every well's different. Every plumbing system, treatment system's different. Setbacks are different. People need to understand these to be able to identify how to continue to have safe water. We deal with treatment systems. Well owners are often mystified. They don't know the chemistry. They don't know the process. They don't know if they're working or not. So we deal with inappropriate and poorly operating and maintained equipment. And we bring them to mitigation, maintenance, and record keeping. We're trying to develop a well owner's portfolio that allows them to keep records of their water system, the details of construction, maintenance, repairs, and the history of water testing. And we bring them to wellhead and aquifer protection, where well owners need a more robust water safety and protection plans that are not threatening to them. Since COVID hit, we came up on the idea of having drive-through nitrate screening clinics. On May 6th, we had our second one and had a resounding success. We had 269 well owners who brought in 336 samples that we analyzed at a rate of 1 a minute for over 2.5 hours. 17% had nitrate impacts, 5% over 7 parts per million, but most people found they had good water. That's a tribute to what a small group can do. A steering committee of 3 people recruited 14 volunteers, not knowing what we were going to end up with for the day and the traffic. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. If you have ideas, contact us. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you all. They're going to join us now. Jason, you need to turn your, there you go. Jason's in the field today. It's a nice, bright, sunny day in Alabama, I think he said. If you have questions for any of these talks, please put it in the comments. And I have a few questions, so I'll start off. Tiziana, how successful was your media program? You said you developed a separate site that was kind of simplified so that to support a media program you had. Do you have any metrics for how or what you feel like was successful for that program?
Sure. So our media campaign was obviously something separate that we did aside from the arsenic and uranium study. But what we used were social media campaigns. We also did broadcasting on things like Pandora or music radio stations. We also did a lot of television ads. What was nice about it is that during that campaign, we were able to develop a lot of different materials that we can reuse in coming years. One of the measures that we actually utilized during that time was creating that separate landing page, which is an easy, catchy website, testyourwell.ct.gov, as a measure to see who's actually paying attention to those media campaigns and those ads. And what we could do is actually measure the number of people that were going to that website. And so that was actually how we measured the success there. What we also noted was an increase in phone calls during that time period, and other things that other agencies might note as well.
Great. Hey, Jeff. So when did you start the Minnesota Well Owners Organization?
We incorporated as a nonprofit in the beginning of 2018. And then we started off right away working with partners to do our free nitrate screening clinics. But COVID kind of interrupted our plans here in the middle of or in early 2020. So we moved back away from the public aspects until just a couple of weeks ago, like I explained in the video. So we've been able to sustain ourselves with a growing board of directors across the entire state of Minnesota, a really diverse group of people, and are really gratified we took the time off to do the planning.
Sure. I'm going to post a question here. There's one for Jason from Eric Yegi. And if you're on a phone, can you read that, Jason? You want me to read it?
Yeah, the question's asking, do we take a stance on saying liquid over tablets or granules? In there, we discuss using the liquid, mainly so we can actually circulate it throughout the well. But I would tell you, when in drafting that publication that you saw in the presentation, we did it because it was kind of a timely need, within our state. And I would tell you, there's some other folks that we've looked at disinfection, and there's a lot of things to really factor into, size of the well, depth of the well, volume of water in it, potential bacteria that you may need to look at. But the short answer is no, we didn't take a hard stance on that, but we did just describe using liquid so we could actually circulate it back through the well.
So I have another question for Jeff. So you did 336 samples. How did you pay for that? And what funds your program, I guess is my question.
We're funded totally by donations. We've had generous contributions from Rochester Area Foundation. Exchange Club is one of our partners. We got all of the equipment and supplies used for free through a Department of Agriculture program that has the nitrate analyzers, and they provide all of the standards and elements, and all of the volunteer work was free. So we relied totally on earned media, had TV spots beforehand, radio spots. So we're a pretty skinny operation. Like I said, we're totally a nonprofit. We rely on contributions from people and organizations and foundations.
I imagine there's some folks who in their states might be interested in what you've done and how that came about. I know we've discussed a few things before, and it really takes a lot of dedication to get. It's a heavy lift to get it started, I'm sure. So,
just another comment. One of the outcomes that we hope to have done before the end of the summer is a toolbox toolkit for people who are interested in putting on the clinics, and that will have a section in there on the fundraising and the costs as well. So. Give people some ideas about where the money comes from, the communication plans that you need to make it successful, and how you recruit and maintain your volunteer corps.
Sure. I do want to point out that there is a question for you, Jeff, in the chat. It's really someone who wants to contact you after the event, so I'll let you look that up there. The only other thing I had to mention is you said you're putting together a portfolio for well owners. I would recommend you take a look at our well assessment tool and consider how you might use that, or work with the RCAP folks. You're in Minnesota, that'd be Jesse Campbell, and because I'm sure they're interested. So,
appreciate that.
Does anyone else have any other questions? And Jeff, you might need to mute yourself. It seems like it. Thank you. If you do, please put them in the comments. And if not, then we're running a few minutes ahead here. I think what we'll do is, here we go. Hang on. Got another question. Got two more. Great. So this one is for Tiziana. How expensive is uranium test, since you recommend testing at least once? Because that's a really good question.
That's a great question. In Connecticut, we have probably 30 or so laboratories, private laboratories that do testing that are certified, that homeowners can work with. And what we found is the prices vary. So when homeowners ask me that question, I always have a hard time answering that question. I always have to think a little bit about where they are, which lab they might go to. And I really have to preface it with, I can't give you an exact amount. You really need to call the labs directly and find that out. The nice part about our arsenic and uranium study is that we were able to utilize our state lab, which, like I said, was only open for investigations or for specific studies through local or state agencies. And we were able to partner with them and offer free testing to homeowners that wanted to participate in this study, which was a great thing. Normally, that's not available to our private well users in state, and so we were excited to offer them something and also get some information in return. But those prices can vary. I hesitate to give you one. Sometimes can be around $150 a test, sometimes less. And for the most part, people are using the mass spectrometry for uranium. They're not necessarily doing the more difficult way of testing. So it is a lot more accessible than it used to be for uranium testing specifically. And I think there was another lab that quoted maybe $80 for that test as well. So a couple of different ranges. You can see it's pretty wide range.
Sure, it's actually less than I thought. We don't have that issue here, really. I think there may be some in the deep aquifer up north, but not that I've dealt with. I'm a glacial guy.
Yeah, a lot.
Okay, so we have next question is from Eric Day. Jason, do you think having well owners collect their own samples affects the results? The age-old question.
Yes.
Oh, we can hear you. You're muted, or Jason, your mic is muted. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Now it's off.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Eric, I would say that it does. One of the benefits is when we actually provide instructions to the homeowners. That helps tremendously. But I really do think it can affect it, just to make sure that they follow what we would call the precautions of collecting a sample, just so we don't have false positives. I'm completely comfortable allowing homeowners to collect them themselves once they have some instructions, but without it, I do think there is an issue.
Sure. And we have another question for Jason from Brian Swisstock. You mentioned lower turnout for online offerings this year. Is internet availability a long-term problem for delivering online education in Mississippi?
You know, in the short run, Brian, I think it may be, but y'all may have noticed as well, there's been a pretty big push, kind of, I'm going to say from the federal level coming down through Mississippi, where there's a lot of money being put out, and our electric co-ops are adopting broadband and distributing it along their service area. So right now, yes, but long run, I don't think so. And you know, it's definitely a good option to hold the virtual meetings. Again, we had participation, and we would have as many samples delivered or brought in as we typically do in the county. We would just have a lower turnout with virtual. And, you know, as I said, I think it's just part of the rural nature. And, you know, Brian is one of the guys that really spurred me on to go that route. So, again, it's been good. And, I mean, I think we'll use it going forward, no doubt. But to answer your question, long term, I don't think it'll be a problem. But short term, over the next couple of years, maybe as broadband becomes more accessible in the rural parts of Mississippi.
See, we found the opposite, but it's because our program offers CEs for environmental health professionals. And so during the pandemic, because they need to get their continuing education, we've seen a big uptick in the amount of people taking our webinars every month. So it's not just because it's not just well owners. Okay, one more, and I think we'll call it. So were the 33% of wells testing positive for total coliform or E. coli or both?
Total coliform. Yeah. The E. coli is only about 2 or 3%. It's pretty low. But coliform, it never fails. We see anytime I get a sample size over about 30, I mean, you can almost put your finger on it's going to be 33 to 36% total coliform. But yeah, when you have smaller sample size, it may vary a little, but you give me 30 sure. Above, you're going to be in that range.
All right. Thank you. There's a discussion going on about chlorine, but we're not going to get into now. But I appreciate Tiziana, Jason, and Jeff for your time, and great talks. All right. We're going to move on. Thank you. And they'll be in the chat if you need them, or you can, and keep that conversation going. Yeah, it was really interesting stuff for sure.